Hello everyone, my name is Wil Laura and I was one of the creators of the Heatwaves content for the Climate Match workshop. Okay, so first we can start talk about what are heatwaves and how do they affect human populations. Heatwaves are considered extreme events. That means that doesn't happen very often or have serious impacts on different sectors, such as health, agriculture, energy, among others. So that's the link how they affect human populations. But we can start talking about the general concept of heat waves. According to the World Meteorological Organizations, it's understood as a prolonged period of excessive heat. That's very good, but we need a specific definition to start to calculate heat waves because we need to select a variable, we need to select a threshold, and a time period as minimum to identify the heat waves. Something about the definition of heat waves is that are many ways, many definitions, and this will be different according to the region and sector of study. Also, we have to take into account that heat waves are the results from the interaction of physical process at different spatial and temporal scales. We can use this figure that was calculated for Australia to analyze the heatwave severity and the role of different climate factors. For example, the largest scale climate mode like the ENSOR or the Indian Ocean dipole. For example, if the ENSOR is in its positive mode, this will generate warmer temperatures for certain regions. Also, if the land surface feedbacks as the antecedents of soil dryness, this will play a role too. Also, the anticyclonic high pressure systems, for example, this can generate the subsidence movement of air that will bring dry air. And there are, if in this region can be another synotic systems like the breaking rocky waves or blocking, among others. And at the end, also the localized amplification of a city or the study area can play a role too. So with this, you are realizing that the heat waves are more complex than we were expecting. But we can start detecting a heat wave focusing in the intensity, the frequency, the duration, the timing, and the spatial extent. So for that, we need to use a variable. So for this workshop, we can use one of the most common definitions. This is using the 90th percentile as a threshold, the maximum temperature as the variable, and the setting up time threshold of 3 consecutive days. So we can apply these conditions using this figure to explain it better. First, what is a percentile? Basically, the statistic, the percentile is used as a value to classify the distribution of the variable, in this case, the temperature. Let's say if the 90th percentile is understood as that means that the 90% of the temperatures, the values of temperatures, are under this threshold, this value. So in this figure, the red line means the 90th percentile, the threshold for each day. The date, the time is the axis x. So that means that the red line you see that is changing for each day. The blue line means the seasonal cycle. Seasonal cycle means the predictable pattern of weather during the year that includes the summer, the autumn, the winter, and the spring. As you can see, it is a smooth behavior. But we want to focus in the black line and the red line. The black line is the observed temperature during the day. So when the black line is higher than the red line, that's when it's over the threshold. And if this keeps happening for at least 3 days, that's when we can say there is a heat wave. That's the way we can identify heat waves. In this case, for example, this is the start of the heat wave, that's the end, and all this area is considered the threshold exceedance. With that, we can analyze the heat waves. For that, we need to use a data set. For this content, for this material, you have available the ERR5 reanalysis data. You will have available the air temperature at 2 meters above the surface to make the calculations. And the advantages of this dataset is that it's a hourly output and have a horizontal resolution of that 25 degrees. And also the information is from 1940 to present. If you are interested to know more about reanalysis data, you can play the video in the following link. So at this point, you have been calculating the heat waves, when they start, when they finish, how many heat waves are in a year, what is the frequency, what are the trends during decades. So at this point, you want to think about what are the impacts of heat waves. As you can see here, there are many sectors, as I told you. For example, on energy, on transport, agriculture, environment, water, among others. For this workshop, you will have available a dataset on health to make some explorations about the impacts of heat waves. The mortality dataset available is from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This provides a mortality dataset for around 38 countries. And the characteristics of this dataset is that it's weekly, the numbers of the deaths by week from all causes, and the information is from 2015 to present. So you can make some explorations about, for example, what are the impacts, what is the influence of heat waves that increase the risk of mortality on vulnerable people, for example. So, but there are more questions about heat waves. For example, what the role do teleconnections play in modulating the frequency and severity of heat wave events? As I told you, there are many climate factors that interact. So this will be different according to the region. We want to know about it. So also you can think about how do heat waves interact with other extreme weather events, such as droughts, wildfires, intense precipitation events. Usually or sometimes heat waves or one extreme weather events is interacting with other, and that means that the influence, the impact of compound events are more dangerous than its isolated ones. So that's something that we want to analyze, we want to know. Or you are thinking, what will be these interactions evolve under future climate conditions or future decades? If you are interested more about impacts, we can start to think, how do heat waves affect vulnerable population in terms of health outcomes? Or what are the economic and social impacts of heat waves on different sectors, such as agricultural systems or food security? So you have available more questions in your template that are classified between green, yellow, and red ones. All these questions will serve you as a motivation to think about what can you explore in your project. Finally, enjoy the material and have a good time. See you soon. Bye bye.